Hi, in the previous video, we completed the setup process and ran our first Angular application. In this video, we will try to make some changes to it. To make changes, we need an IDE. We will be using Visual Studio Code since it is free to use and on par with the paid IDEs, but you are free to work on whatever IDE you are comfortable with. First, we need to open the folder in the IDE which has our Angular project. As you can see, there are a lot of files and it may seem intimidating, but most of the files are for configuration work and you won't need to touch them. We will take a quick look at the package.json file where we have all dependencies which include core dependencies of Angular as well as third-party dependencies. Dev dependencies is used for those dependencies which are required while developing locally and not required when the application runs in production. We'll find many examples for each category as we move ahead in this course. Let's start with editing our application. The E2E folder is for end-to-end testing. We can ignore that for now. Node modules is where all dependencies we saw in the package.json are actually installed. The src folder is where we have some config files and the app folder. We will discuss in detail what each file in the app folder does as the course progresses. Let's start with the app component HTML file. The HTML written here looks similar to what we see when we run our application. Note that you should have your server running using the ngserve command which we discussed in the previous video. If you want to stop the server, you can use Ctrl+C when in the terminal. We can also open a terminal inside Visual Studio Code using Ctrl and the tilde symbol as shortcut. Visual Studio Code has many shortcuts, so make sure you Google them out to speed up your development process. Once the server is started, we can make changes to the code and save. The server will automatically pick those changes and reflect them in the running application. As you can see, we don't have edit app written in the HTML. This is because Angular helps us to create dynamic content using variables and not just static content like HTML. Whatever logic we have is present in the .ts file and written in TypeScript, which is converted to JavaScript after build. The complete app folder here is what we refer to as a component in Angular, which has different files solving different purposes like the HTML file, the CSS and the TypeScript file. We'll discuss on this in the coming videos along with in-depth explanation of what each line in the app component TS file means. For now, in layman's terms, we can see that a variable title holds the string that is actually shown in the HTML of our running application, and we can prove this by making some changes here and checking if it gets reflected in our application on saving. The proper term for what we just did is data binding, and we'll discuss this in depth in the coming videos. If we see the page source, we don't see the actual HTML. Rather, we see something called Approot along with some scripts at the bottom. Approot is something that appears in our component TS file as well. Let's check out the index.html file. Here, as you can see, we don't have the script imports because those are injected dynamically, which in turn helps Angular render the HTML content present in the Approot component's HTML file. Also, we can have more than one component in Angular. Approot is just the starting point. If all this seems complex at this moment, don't worry, you are not alone. As the course progresses, everything will become clearer. Let us try using something a little more complex than just showing a text. The code present here uses the ngModel directive, about which we will discuss in the coming videos as well. This basically binds whatever we type in the input field to the variable, and using the curly braces we can display that in real time in the HTML as well. As you can see, we get an error saying ngModel isn't a known property. Whenever you get this kind of error with Angular, it means that whatever we want to use has not been found by Angular. Next question is, how does Angular find files and other stuff? The answer is modules. Angular uses modules which work somewhat similar to packages in Java. In the modules, you have to provide two things. First, for TypeScript to know where the file path is, we use the import keyword and specify what we need and from which path. This has nothing to do with Angular. Then we have to add the class name of the module to the module array of ng-module, which then enables Angular to get related components, directives, etc. from the specified module. For ng-model, we need the forms module present in the forms folder of core Angular packages. Now, if we save, we can see the application is working as intended. We touched upon a few things in this video, which at this point will not be fully clear. Just follow along and check out the links in the description for the GitHub repository if you face any issue. Later, we will discuss each topic like ng-model, Angular modules, components, etc. again. That is it for now. If this video helped you, please subscribe to the channel to support it and share it to fellow learners.